Welcome to NarrativeNook audio tales where enchanted stories come to life. If you enjoy our stories, please subscribe, like and share to support our channel. Enjoy listening.
Many young women in the crowd were extremely jealous as they watched the man whom they idolized reveal his relationship with Jessie. It was like a pang in their hearts. If there are no other questions, let's wrap up this event. Once Julian finished his words, he gave the microphone to one of the staff and left hand in hand with Jessie. When she descended the stage, many fans squeezed toward her. At that, Julian immediately pulled her into his arms to shield her from the crowd, hugging her figure so she would not get squeezed. Meanwhile, the bodyguards immediately came over and guided them toward the green room. Like both of them had guessed, Vincent was so furious that his mustache curled up, resembling a handlebar mustache. Julian had abandoned his scheduled advertising campaign and gone to Jessie's campaigning venue. As if he thought Vincent had not had enough, he publicized their relationship. They had invested giant funds in this movie, and they no longer had any high hopes for it. Instead, all they were hoping was that they could break even. Meanwhile, the couple's announcement had spread like wildfire on the internet and even caused a network to crash. Julian, the most brilliant man in the entertainment industry, was suddenly revealed to be taken. How could his fans not be saddened by such news? Therefore, a rise of netizens claimed they would not be supporting them. Many of his female fans clamored to announce that they would boycott the movie as well. Just as they had expected, the loudest protest came from the female fans. When Julian brought Jessie back to the company, Vincent was furious but did not dare to throw a fit. Not only that, but he even had an uncomfortable time suppressing his anger. "Julian, didn't we reach an agreement earlier? Can't you bear with it just for a while? What you did will only cause a huge impact on our movie and affect the box office sales." Julian did not comment while Jessie comforted Vincent. "Director Cooper, don't be mad. Here, have some tea and cool down." Following that, Vincent accepted the tea and drank it. Since he was still angry, he choked on the tea and began coughing fiercely, clutching his chest. "Oh, no. Director Cooper, are you all right?" She immediately reached out and patted his back in concern. "Did we trigger his sickness or something?" "I choked on the tea," he explained bitterly before looking at Julian with a defeated expression. "I can't scold him, nor can I beat him up, and I even have to think twice before saying anything lest I want to lose my job. This is so exasperating. Vincent, stop worrying. As for the box office sales, let's leave it to fate." Julian spoke some words of concern before turning to Jessie. "Let's go home." She nodded and assured Vincent, "Director Cooper, there is nothing to worry about. The movie is amazing." Vincent admired her utter calmness in this situation, but it was not unexpected. Even if her first movie ended as a disaster, she still had her identity as Mrs. Julian Gilmore, so her situation would not be any worse than the other celebrities. In the meantime, Jessie and Julian arrived outside the parking lot. Several black MPVs parked on the side, and dozens of reporters were waiting for them to appear before surrounding the two. "Mr. Gilmore, are you and Miss Silverstein dating? When are you getting married? When did you guys start dating? Miss Silverstein, are you pregnant?" Jessie was taken aback by that question, but she still politely waved her hand and denied being pregnant. "No, I'm not. We're not thinking of having children at the moment." Julian held her hand and turned to look at the bodyguards, who immediately came over and shielded them until they entered the car. Inside the vehicle, she noticed that the reporters had no intentions of leaving and were constantly tapping on the car. "I feel sorry for Director Cooper," she sighed. He reached over and held her hand. "How about you? Are you worried about the box office sales?" After giving it some serious thought, she answered, "No. I'm not worried about your fans boycotting the movie either because I'm your fan too. Perhaps I would feel disappointed after knowing you're taken, but that doesn't stop me from liking you. So, yes, I'll still watch your movie. She was explaining things from a fan's point of view. Once she finished her explanation, she hugged the man's waist while saying joyously, "To be honest, I was extremely shocked and touched when you stepped on stage today." Julian rubbed his forehead against hers while reassuring her, "Wherever you are, that's where I want to be." In the meantime, the public relations department at Gilmore Corporation was working overtime today, helping Julian manage the comments. Since he had already announced his relationship, they could only give their relationship more publicity. What was more, Julian's action of ditching his campaign to make a sudden appearance at Jesse's today was enough to touch many. Soon, someone posted his schedule of the day, proving that he loved her dearly and leading the fans to accept them. As expected, Gilmore Corporation's public relations department was phenomenal at directing public opinion and managed to convince his fans. Many of them had even begun giving the couple their blessings. Moreover, the movie was due to premiere on the first day of the new year, and the entire production crew felt like they were sitting on pins and needles. During that time, it was said that Vincent was admitted to the hospital because of insomnia, which stemmed from his awful mood and anxiety. On New Year's Eve, Julian and Jesse had a family dinner at the Gilmore residence before heading to the hospital to visit him. By now, Vincent had given up and decided not to panic about it. However, this was the first movie that rendered him insecure in his years of directing. He had prepared numerous special effects that would be used in the movie before it even began shooting, which showed how much dedication he put into this film. "Julian, I'm only left with one belief, to believe you. I trust that with your popularity, the ticket sales won't be terrible." He held Julian's hand while saying that. "Don't worry. If the ticket sales are awful, I'll put in a good word for you so that Louis won't fire you," Julian teased. Jessie, who was beside them, was originally feeling sympathetic toward Vincent, but she could not help but burst out laughing when she heard what Julian said. "You'll know the answer tomorrow, so just go on with your day," she assured him. At night, Julian brought Jessie to a place where they could enjoy the countdown. The two enjoyed the fireworks illuminating the sea with candlelight and red wine. Later in the night, she saw someone posting the same fireworks on social media, to which the comments were asking, "I heard that this fireworks display was arranged by a wealthy man to make his girlfriend happy. I'm curious who that lucky woman is and how she feels having someone light fireworks above the sea for an hour." When Jessie read the comment, she could not help but think, "I didn't expect I could enjoy the fireworks a rich man prepared for his girlfriend." Feeling curious, she ran over to Julian and showed him her phone. "How did you know there would be a rich man lighting the fireworks for his girlfriend there? Was it your friend?" After watching the video, he went silent for a moment before answering, "The rich man is me, and you're the girlfriend." She was speechless and stunned for a few seconds. "What? It was for me all along? So, it's you? Are those fireworks for me?" Jessie was touched beyond words. She would never have dreamt that Julian was such a romantic and that she could be part of the experience. Smooch. With a smile, she hugged and kissed him. "Thank you, my dear Mr. Gilmore." He reached out to embrace her. "Now that the fireworks are done, shouldn't we be heading home so that you can thank me properly?" She knew he was up to no good just by looking at him, so she nodded shyly. "Sure, let's go home." Inside the car, she smiled sweetly when she found more videos on social media and saw that many were jealous of the woman who received the fireworks display. The one being envied by all is me. Right after midnight, the cinemas showing Julian's latest movie were packed, and the box office sales were consistently on top in just one day. To that, Vincent was utterly delighted. "Not only was I worried for nothing, but the movie is also a hit with a high review score." A week later, the movie broke the box office record for this quarter, reaching ticket sales of over 1 billion while still rising. On the 7th night of the new year, Vincent happily invited everyone in the production crew to a good meal, and whoever was free attended the gathering. Since Julian and Jessie had declared their relationship, they went there together without caring about public scrutiny. Director Cooper, the box office sales are beyond our imaginations. This is amazing. That's right. The results have surpassed my expectations, and Jessie is made popular by the movie. She was also elated at the results, but she was not looking forward to acting anymore because she knew she would not have been interested in participating if Julian had not been the male protagonist. Therefore, she decided that she would focus on being Mrs. Gilmore from then on. As of now, we should be looking forward to the award ceremony that is going to be held in 3 months. I think Julian and Jessie will win a few grand awards. Of course, Jessie was looking forward to the award ceremony. It would mean a lot to her if she could win a trophy. Despite not being a casual drinker, she decided to try all sorts of alcohol, including white wine, red wine, and cocktails for this great occasion. When Julian returned from his trip to the bathroom, she was already drunk. No one is to toast her again. He was a little worried, so he warned the others. A few who did not have the chance to toast with Jessie eventually gave up on the idea. Just watching Julian dote on his girlfriend was enough for them to feel jealous of her. It seemed like she must have done a lot in her previous life to be able to become his girlfriend. Perhaps during her last lifetime, she spent all her days gathering merits, which was why she could meet Julian in this lifetime and get pampered like a child. I'm not drunk. I'm perfectly sober. Jessie stubbornly argued while raising her chin and taking the initiative to raise her glass. Let me give a toast to all of you. Thank you all for taking such good care of me on set. Following that, everyone raised their glasses and responded to her. Only the man sitting beside her looked frustrated and grabbed her glass away when she raised it to her lips before downing it himself. She blinked her huge eyes, utterly confused. Why is this guy stealing my drink? That's all for today. Everyone, please head back early and get some rest. Once Julian finished his words, he rose to his feet and was ready to leave. I'm bringing her home and never letting her drink alcohol again. No. I don't want to go home. Jessie was having fun with others and still wanted to be with them. We're going karaoke later. Young Master Julian, would you like to join us? One of the female assistants asked senselessly. When Jessie, whom Julian had just pulled into his embrace, heard they were going to karaoke, she immediately raised her hand. I do. I want to go. No, you can't, he ordered. I don't want to go home, so I must go karaoke. Julian, please. Since Jessie was drunk, she acted like a child and was more stubborn than usual. The female assistant immediately sensed that she should not have said that and looked terrified as she looked at him. Do you want to go? In the end, Julian compromised. Yes, I want to. I want to hear you sing. With lips curled into a smile, Jessie looked at him expectantly. Fine. Let's go. He agreed to her request, resulting in the assistant's relief. Oh my gosh. That was so terrifying. I thought I would get scolded by young Master Julian for sure. Subsequently, Jessie leaned half of her weight against Julian as they walked out of the restaurant. When they entered the car, she was still in high spirits and was looking forward to hearing him sing later. At that moment, Harper played a song on the radio, which was Jessie's favorite. Since the alcohol boosted her courage, she was not reserved anymore and began singing along to the radio. Her voice filled the car as she sang excitedly. While looking at the woman beside him, Julian decided that she was not allowed to drink alcoholic drinks when he was not around. Her current behavior was not only lovely but also sexy. Her hair was tied behind her head, revealing her charming face rich with emotions and a sense of rebellion. Julian was not sure how many times he had gulped. I shouldn't have agreed to let her go karaoke. Instead, I should have brought her home so that she could exert her excitement on me. If he were to change his mind now, she would probably throw a tantrum, so he could only suppress his urge and accompany her to the karaoke. When they arrived at the luxurious private room, they began to choose a few songs to sing. Jessie and a female assistant chose the song she had been singing inside the car earlier, and they both piped happily. Since her voice already sounded pleasant to the ears, it sounded even more melodious when she sang. However, she was a little tone-deaf and was singing off-key. Julian's lips curled into a smile without him knowing, and the affection in his eyes was unmistakable when he looked at her. After the song ended, shyness overcame her, probably because she had sobered up a little. She then raced over to Julian and sat beside him. He snaked his long arms around her waist, which made her look up at him to ask, "What song would you like to sing?" At that moment, the female assistant came over and notified them, "I've selected a song for young Master Julian." Hearing that, Jessie nodded in anticipation. "Okay." By now, she had indeed sobered up and was listening to the others sing. Then, her eyes landed on the beer glass on the table before she reached over. Immediately, the man beside her enveloped her in his embrace while refusing in his raspy voice. "You can't drink any more tonight." She turned to look at him with pitiful eyes and knew she could not drink any more. Following that, he grabbed a glass of water and handed it to the girl, who drank it obediently like a child with strict parents. Finally, it was Julian's turn to sing. The assistant had chosen a romantic song, and it made everyone's heart flutter as he descanted in his attractive voice. Meanwhile, Jessie was immersed in his voice. She previously listened to the soundtrack for his movie that he sang, and she loved every second of it. "I put him on replay all the time. He's such an all-rounded artist. Jessie, go give young Master Julian a hug." Lexi nudged her. Hearing that, she could not help but feel shy while heading over to embrace him. In reciprocation, he held her hand and looked at her gently while finishing the rest of the song. Her heart fluttered, and she felt extremely shy yet touched. Once he finished his karaoke, both of them returned to their seats. On their way home, Jessie leaned into Julian's arm while relishing her pleasant day. The good news was that their movie left the other movies dusty in box office sales and acquired a highly satisfactory result. That night, the last of her drunken state was left for her man, for she was even more seductive than usual. It was not until 2:00 a.m. that they finally stopped their activities. Early the following morning, she received a call from Queenie, who invited the couple to her house. In the afternoon, both couples were sitting opposite each other while enjoying a pleasant lunch. Queenie had an obvious pregnancy vibe, and her baby bump was also slightly showing. After lunch, the two men sat aside and talked about their matters while the two sisters went upstairs to have a girls' talk. "Have you decided on an engagement date? Or maybe getting married right away?" Queenie asked. "I think we're doing just fine. I feel free while dating him," Jessie answered, clearly not anxious about getting married. "Well, since you put it that way, let's not worry about this until you're ready." Queenie agreed. "I want to at least wait until my nephew is born." After Jessie said that, she gently caressed Queenie's belly. "When will we start feeling fetal movement?" "Soon. It's supposed to begin around the 4th month." Queenie also looked forward to it, the magical touch from her future newborn. After having dinner, Jessie and Julian stayed until 8:00 p.m. and left. The two had agreed to pay a visit to the orphanage the next day, and Jessie would take $5 million from her signing bonus and donate it to them. Moreover, the orphanage had managed to get finer treatment and would soon be moving to a new place. When they arrived at the orphanage, Julian felt a pang in his heart when he saw the place she grew up at. It turns out that she was living a poor life before returning to the Silverstein family. Yet, She constantly relays her kindness and determination to the other children at the orphanage. The director said she has always been a role model for other children. When it was time for them to head home, Jessie gathered all the gifts she received from the children and put them in a box to bring home with her. Distressed, Julian embraced her before kissing her. She blinked her eyes at him. "What's the matter?" "Nothing." He could not put his love for her into words, but he knew he was deeply in love with her. The start of a new year meant new beginnings. Jessie had made a name for herself and was so popular that an international brand chose her to be the global spokesperson for their perfume ad with an endorsement fee of $2 billion. This was the first time she had ever been a spokesperson for anything, so she was unaware of how others were jealous of her. She was a newly debuted celebrity who had only appeared in one film and was now chosen to be the global spokesperson for a multinational corporation. Her popularity, along with Julian's, skyrocketed, and the fans adored her. While some celebrities had dark histories that could not be revealed, Jessie's past made them feel more sympathetic toward her as they got to know her. They found out that she got lost at a young age and was admitted into an orphanage, where she had to independently earn money for herself when she reached 18. She played cameo roles and stunt doubles for a living, and she gave all the money she earned to the orphanage for the betterment of the children there. As for her, she stayed in a cheap hotel and ate bread daily. Later, she discovered that she was the second young lady of a wealthy family that owned a 100-year-old brand. Therefore, how could such a hard-working and determined celebrity not be famous? Her past and personality made the fans feel distressed for her, but they also liked her even more and wished that she could participate in more roles. The internet was also filled with supportive comments when she was announced as the spokesperson. Later during a press conference, Jessie revealed that 2/3 of her endorsement fee would be donated to charity organizations so that they could be used to assist more children in need. If it had been another celebrity, the public might have deemed her altruism as an act, but that was not the case for her. Her boyfriend was a rich, well-known actor, and her family owned a 100-year-old brand worth $70 billion, which meant she was not short of money. That was why many believed that her donations were genuine. Also, the public discovered that while other celebrities would show off their luxuries, the clothes Jessie wore on camera were ordinary clothes and accessories. Still, they looked exceptionally beautiful on her. In an instant, she became the celebrity role model many fans idolized. As for Jessie herself, she was keeping a low profile, staying behind closed doors to date, cook, swim, and spend time with Julian. To her, anything done with him was meaningful. The following day was the day of her advertisement shoot. She was feeling nervous, for she had never gained such experiences before. That morning, she arrived at the shooting site in a white dress. She was met with a huge green cloth draped across the back of the studio. In addition, the shooting required her to do some wire flying, which she was skilled at. Since that morning, she had been busy with her makeup. Her final makeup was elegant and attractive, making her look like a princess. Her evening gown was also specially designed for her by the world's largest dress manufacturer. It was a gown with thousands of shimmering diamonds embedded in it, and it was the kind that only a person with the right temperament and figure could wear. However, Jessie was able to pull off that dress and look effortlessly stunning in it. Her advertisement shooting went smoothly, maybe because her lover was present at the scene. Her gaze was always twinkling and filled with light, resembling the mesmerizing galaxy. On screen, she was showing off her perfect figure, and her facial features looked flawless under the lens of the high-definition camera. The shooting began in the morning and lasted until late afternoon. The first day of shooting ended at 4:00 p.m. because there would be another day of shooting tomorrow. Julian, who had been accompanying her the entire time, felt bad for her because she had only eaten half of her lunch before heading off to film with a hungry stomach. However, she was as joyful as a child after the shoot. She dragged her beautiful evening dress around while pacing back and forth before him, hoping to get a compliment. Lovely? Yes, very. Do you want this dress? Though she adored this evening dress, it was only suitable for advertisement shoots and not daily occasions due to its eye-catchiness. She might even lose a diamond while wearing it, which would pain her to lose. There's no need for that. Wait for me to change. We'll be having dinner after that. Jessie had been on a diet for the commercial shooting, which resulted in her current hunger pangs. That night, Julian treated her to dinner and even ordered takeaway for her as supper. Then, March arrived in the blink of an eye, bringing two good tidings. The first one confirmed Eva was pregnant, while the second one was regarding their latest movie being nominated for an award. Even so, the award remained a mystery to them for the time being. Eva didn't expect herself to be pregnant when she traveled home for vacation. Thus, after she returned to the city, the people around her viewed her as the object of protection. Jessie was delighted when she heard such excellent news, as she was expecting the birth of 2 children this year. One of them belonged to Queenie, while another one belonged to Eva. So far, she and Julian hadn't decided on their wedding date. After all, she was content with spending time together with him. The 24th of March was considered a big day for celebrities, as the award ceremony this year was held on the same day. It also provided the occasion to review excellent works over the year. The ceremony would give out awards to both the Best Actor and Actress, along with other prizes to recognize the industry's accomplishments. Jessie, Julian, and the crew walked down the red carpet, bathing in the background music and the fans screaming. Soon, they walked over to the sign-in board. The instant she signed her name, he left his signature next to hers before drawing a heart that circled their names. His gesture didn't go unnoticed by the camera operators nearby. They immediately gave his work a close-up. His gesture was evidence of his affection for her, even if it was a simple one. After that, they walked into the ceremony hall. Even though she was merely a rookie in the industry, their relationship suggested that she would become more than that in the future. Thus, the organizer arranged a seat for her beside him. Their name tags next to each other indicated the best wishes from the industry for the future couple. "Are you nervous about the ceremony?" He gently held her hand in his. "Not at all. I'm doing my best to stay calm." She shook her head. Even though she was surrounded by the flashing lights, to her, there was nothing around that could ever compare with him. Therefore, she was happy even if she didn't win any award, because he was the best thing that ever happened to her. The ceremony began in the crowd's nervous anticipation after the opening show. Then, the hosts announced the winners with excited voices. After that, the audience was all looking forward to the announcement of the award winners after the awards for both the Best Supporting Actor and Actress, followed by various awards for the behind-the-scenes team. The most significant awards of the night were none other than the award for Best Actor and the award for Best Actress. All of them were highly anticipating the announcement of this year's winners. Next, we'll be glad to have the presidents announce the Best Actor and Actress. Please welcome Mr. Leeds and Mr. King. The hostess began with a bright smile on her face. The men got up on the stage. Both of them were holding an unopened envelope respectively. After they exchanged a few jokes, the music that followed built up the tension in the air. The audience was watching them in anticipation. Coming up next, we are going to announce the winners of the award for Best Actor and Best Actress. The winner of the award for Best Actor is Julian Gilmore, and the award for Best Actress goes to Jessie Silverstein. Jessie was overjoyed with the news of Julian as the winner when she unexpectedly heard her name. The words struck her like lightning, rendering her utterly dumbfounded for a split second as she had difficulty processing them and doubting herself. "Am I hearing my name?" She sought assurance from him. He took her hand. "You are. Let's go." There was a stir in the audience. Several people were eyeing her enviously as he led her onto the stage, hand in hand. After all, she used to be an unassuming double for other actresses, and it was merely her first movie in her career. However, Julian, who was widely recognized as the most handsome man in the industry, was now holding her hand as they stepped onto the stage. Plus, she also won the award for Best Actress, which created a record for achieving such an accomplishment after starring in her first movie. Lisa was one of the people who couldn't contain her jealousy. She balled her fists tightly as she struggled to accept that all the good things had happened to Jessie. There should be some backdoor dealings behind this. There's no way she could earn this award if not through connections, Lisa hissed through gritted teeth. At that exact moment, nervousness filled Jessie's heart. However, when Julian slid her palm into his, she calmed down under his touch. She was suddenly filled with overwhelming certainty that she could take things head-on with him by her side. When the pair stood at the center of the stage, their mere presence practically revealed to the world that they were undoubtedly a perfect couple. The audience couldn't help but agree that they were the ideal match made for each other. Jessie, would you mind sharing what's on your mind right now? Are you happy? Are you surprised to hear you won the award? The hostess walked over to them and asked cheerily. Jessie took over the microphone and nodded naturally. Yes, I'm indeed both thrilled and surprised. I've never considered winning an award when I came to attend the ceremony. But your movie ranked the highest-grossing film of the year. So, you should have made a mental preparation for winning an award tonight, the host pressed. I never gave it more than a passing thought. After all, the movie only became a success mainly due to the director, the team behind it, and all the other staff involved in the movie. Once she answered, the host directed their attention at Julian and asked, Julian, what about you? What's your favorite moment on the stage? The best moment will be nothing but standing by Miss Silverstein's side when she receives the award. Julian didn't hesitate to answer. The host let out a chuckle before teasing, it seems like winning the award yourself is second to accompanying Miss Silverstein to receive the award on your list. The envious eyes of the audience were glued to Jessie. The best actor, Julian, made it clear that he was merely her companion on the stage tonight. Therefore, her most outstanding achievement tonight was never getting an award but having him by her side for the rest of her life. Heat rushed to her face, and she pursed her cherry-red lips at his words. However, before she could dwell on it, the hostess shot another question at her. Miss Silverstein, may I ask, do you have any plans for the future? Jessie got lost in a train of thought but couldn't think of a satisfactory answer. Then, she turned to Julian on the side to seek his help, only to see the man smiling at her. Isn't it getting married? Her cheeks immediately flushed crimson at his reminder. Finally, she nodded firmly and told the hostess, he's right. I'm taking my time to enjoy dating before I get married. If so, is Miss Silverstein perhaps suggesting that you're marrying Mr. Gilmore? Jessie nodded the second time with pure bliss spread across her face. Yes. It's him. The awards ceremony no longer held its significance when it became a place where every audience witnessed Jessie and Julian's strong affection for each other. It was a starry night, filled with stars twinkling from the sky and stars attending the awards ceremony. By the time they arrived home, it was already 11:30 p.m. After a bath, Jessie changed into her comfy pajamas and took the opportunity to finally relax. The stiffness in her shoulders had never once disappeared during the ceremony due to her nervousness about being one of the participants tonight. A pair of hands reached behind her and kneaded her stiff muscles just when she tried to massage the soreness out of her shoulders. She fluttered her eyes shut in comfort, leaned into his touch, and enjoyed his hands massaging her shoulders as a faint smile painted across her lips. Julian was captivated by her beauty tonight. After he ensured she had finally let loose of all the stress, he stood still behind the couch and leaned down to kiss her soft, red lips. The kiss drew a moan out of her, which made her shyness reach its peak due to their intimacy. "That's not how you kiss." Nevertheless, there was no doubt that the man was a good kisser, and she couldn't tear herself away from his ministrations. Soon, he bent down to carry her in his arms and returned to the room. After the awards ceremony, Julian turned down all job offers and took Jessie on a trip abroad. They spent quality time together without worrying about their careers and other trivial matters. Then, July approached in a blink of an eye, bringing Queenie's due date closer day by day. Frankly, after she had experienced the pregnancy for months, she couldn't help but feel that it was finally her time to give birth to her child. Just as expected, Queenie gave birth to the youngest son of the Manson family through a C-section, who weighed 7 pounds at birth. The baby boy clenched his fists as his wail resounded through the room, which thoroughly amazed the nurses in the delivery room. It was their first time seeing a newborn with such delicate features yet a very healthy set of lungs. Still, judging by his parents' looks, it was only natural that the child would eventually grow into a handsome young man in the future. Both elders of the Manson family and the Silverstein family were glad to receive the news. After all, good tidings of the mother and the child being in excellent health were the best information they would ever hope for. Julian and Jessie had already embarked on their trip back to the country to attend the baby shower. Things were a little hectic for the new parents, especially considering the latest addition to the family. However, 3 days later, Anastasia and Elliot visited them. After all, Queenie needed a friend to talk to and relieve any postpartum anxiety she might have hidden in her heart. Anastasia was akin to an older sister to Queenie. They talked about everything and anything that needed to be taken care of after childbirth. Anastasia's company also had the intended effect of soothing Queenie, who was experiencing hormonal changes after her delivery, and kept Queenie in a good mood, so she could raise her child without worries. The Silverstein family and the Manson family elders were more than delighted to welcome the new member into their families. The baby shower was held in a month, and they had a tacit understanding of making it as grand as possible. Jessie was overjoyed to see her healthy nephew. She held him carefully in her arms most of the time and was reluctant to let him go. Julian attempted to do the same, but he felt as though his limbs weren't listening to his brain. Because no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't manage to position his arms right to hold the baby. Nigel, who watched the scene unfold on the side the whole time, couldn't help but step in and demonstrate the correct way to hold a baby himself. "You need to learn. Maybe you'll be doing the same in 2 years," Nigel teased. Julian envied Nigel for that and was looking forward to the day when he got to marry Jessie. He proposed to Jessie when they traveled abroad, and she accepted. Thus, they returned to the country to discuss the wedding with their parents. The elders of the Gilmore family and the Silverstein family worked together and chose a date in October, which was an auspicious day for the wedding. Since Julian was a famous actor with a considerable fan base, he kept the wedding small and secret. Nonetheless, some of the wedding photos he deigned to reveal remained the top trending topic on Twitter for a whole month. Finally, the group heard from Eva and Louis and received another fantastic piece of news in November, which was the birth of their son. He was the designated heir of the Gilmore family. Since then, Louis had gone all out to lavish his wife and son with love. In the evening, the lights illuminated Averna, the most prosperous city in the east. The building of Presgrave Group stood high above the other city landmarks and attractions around it like a king. It made itself a magnificent view in the evening of the early winter. Elliot had kept a low profile over the recent years. He decided to focus on his family and made them his #1 priority, but his business empire was thriving under his governance. To him and Anastasia, the family would always be his priority. His business and everything else would only come after, not before. Someday during the early winter, Jared, the young master of the Presgrave family, had just finished his usual fencing practice. He got ready to go home for dinner while a security team designated to escort him was waiting downstairs. He got in the car and wore his earplugs out of habit before closing his eyes for a short nap. Even though he was only 10 years old, he had set his life goal, which was to inherit his father's company in the future and protect his family. Thus, he looked more mature and sophisticated compared to the children of his age. Perhaps his wish came true as his features began to reveal a hint of him gradually growing into a young adult despite being so young. Alas, the danger was closing in from behind under the cover of the night. A car without a license plate slowly approached them. A man poked his head out of the sunroof and aimed the rocket launcher in his hands at the convoy in front of him. The enemies struck the convoy on the road without warning. The missile sent one of the 3 black cars in motion, flipping over before the blast spread to the other 2 cars. The first car rolled down the road amidst the explosion before it crashed into a lamppost and stopped. The windows shattered due to the blast and revealed the passengers inside, but their fate remained unknown. A few injured people swiftly got down from the 2 other black cars, which were affected by the blast, and shouted at each other, "The young master is still in there. We need to save him." After that, the bodyguards rushed simultaneously toward the flipped black car and wrenched the door open with abandon. They found Jared in a state that blood smeared all over his face when they got him out of the passenger seats. They also managed to drag the bodyguard, who drove the car, out of the driver's seat, but he had already passed away. "Young master is breathing. We have to bring him to the hospital immediately." One of the bodyguards barked the order at his companions before rushing toward the black car on the roadside. The other 4 surviving bodyguards didn't waste any time carrying Jared to the car and making a break for the hospital. Regardless, they hurriedly reported the situation to Elliot and Anastasia on the way to the hospital. After learning the bad news, she almost passed out in her husband's arms. On the contrary, although Jared's accident unnerved him, Elliot still forced himself to calm down before rushing to the hospital with his wife in tow. Meanwhile, at Presgrave Hospital, the director, the associate director, and the rest of the head doctors were all gathered at the entrance of the building. They were there to welcome the car that the young master of the Presgrave family was in. Soon enough, the black car sped over to the entrance and stopped before the bodyguard carefully carried the boy out of the car and onto a stretcher. "Save him," the bodyguard cried with tears in his eyes. The doctors who had been assigned to the case hurried forward and wheeled the boy to the emergency room. The director ran along with them as he gave out orders to the nurses to treat the bodyguard's wounds. After that, he got the staff to send the 2 ice-cold bodies into the mortuary. No one could have foreseen that the Presgrave family would be attacked. It wasn't certain if young Master Presgrave, who was only 10 years old, would survive the attack. About 10 minutes later, Elliot charged toward the emergency room with Anastasia following behind him. A female bodyguard had to support Anastasia so that she didn't fall. Her cheeks were soaked with tears. Upon hearing the news that the bodyguards in the driver and passenger seats had died on the spot, Anastasia's face was drained of color. She looked as if she was about to pass out. Elliot gathered the 4 other bodyguards to ask them about the incident. "I'm sorry, President Presgrave. We didn't sense any danger at first. It was just a regular jeep." Then, a rocket-like explosive was hurled directly toward the other car. The whole car was thrown up into the air before it flipped and caught on fire. We felt the impact of the explosion, even from our car. The whole place was a mess. We immediately ran over to save young Master Presgrave, and he was still breathing when we got him out, one of the bodyguards explained. "Was he badly injured?" Elliot asked. "He had a wound on his forehead, but there were no other obvious wounds on him. But we're not sure if he," the bodyguard muttered. Elliot's entire figure was shuddering, regardless of how much he tried to remain calm. he simply couldn't bring himself to accept what had happened to his son. At that very moment, a doctor rushed out of the emergency room. "President Presgrave, sir, young Master Presgrave needs a heart transplant. We have to contact all of the hospitals in town, or any other hospital in the country, to find a suitable match. We need it within 24 hours, the doctor said to both Elliot and the director. Elliot watched as the director pulled his phone out and started contacting all his connections. He sent out the news of what had happened and started asking for a suitable heart to save a child whose life was in danger. When Anastasia heard that her son required a heart transplant, she collapsed into tears once more. At that moment, she desperately wished that she could sacrifice her life in exchange for her son's, just so that he could survive. After the directors made a few calls, he managed to get the news out to most of the hospitals. A married couple was staring at a document placed in front of them in a hospital in Averna. The woman let out a long sigh. "Would we have had to spend all this money if it weren't for your sister?" she muttered. Tears were welling up in the man's eyes. "Stop with your harsh words. We can't save Nick anymore," he uttered. "The doctor already told us that there was no hope for Nick a week ago, but you were the one who insisted on keeping him on life support. What's the purpose of that? We've spent over $10,000 on his stay in the ICU. What was all of that money for? I'd rather spend the money on someone alive." The woman responded in a sharp tone before she gladly put her signature on the paper. However, right when they were about to leave the hospital, a doctor hurried out to stop them in their tracks. "Please hold on. We have an emergency situation that we'd like to talk to you guys about," the doctor said. "What's the emergency? Can we still save Nick?" the man asked. "Well, there's a 10-year-old who just got into a car accident in town, and he desperately needs a heart transplant. At this point, we will no longer be able to keep Nick alive. Would you guys be willing to donate his heart?" The woman's eyes lit up when she heard the doctor's words. "This is a good deed we're doing. Let's do it," she uttered as she held onto her husband's arm. The man thought about it for a moment before he let out a sigh. "Fine. I guess it's good that we get to save someone else's life. It'll be good karma for Nick, too. I hope he'll find greater peace wherever he is." At that point, the man didn't know that his decision had saved a whole family. When the director received the news, Elliot and Anastasia were still with him. They received the good news just 30 minutes after announcing that they needed a transplant. They heard that there was a boy who had been brain dead for nearly 2 weeks and that the boy's family had just signed the papers to take the boy off life support. Coincidentally, the hospital hadn't taken the boy off life support yet, so the staff had asked for the family's consent to donate the boy's heart and received it. Tears streamed down Elliot's cheeks as well. The Presgrave family will forever be indebted to this family of strangers. We have to repay their kindness, he thought. Anastasia had the same thought in her mind as well. About an hour later, a total of 3 cars escorted a vehicle over to the hospital. In the vehicle was the heart that young Master Elliot needed to survive. The young boy was hurried into the surgical theater for a heart transplant. About 3 hours later, the surgery was an official success, and young Master Elliot's life was no longer in danger. Elliot sent a gift to express his gratitude to the family that had helped them. Meanwhile, the other family left the hospital after they signed the necessary documents. Zach looked especially drained after he had finally said his last goodbyes to his sister's son, Nick. Zach brought his wife home, and they were greeted by 2 girls who were waiting for them in the hall. One of the girls was their daughter, while the other girl was skinnier and paler. However, she had a pair of bright eyes that made her look pretty. The husband and wife had just got home when they noticed a car stopping outside their house. A middle-aged man stepped out of the vehicle to hand them a special gift. "Mr. Zach Lore and Ms. Olivia Fraser, I'm here to deliver a gift of appreciation on behalf of my boss. We'd all like to thank you for saving our young master." What's the gift? Olivia's eyes lit up immediately. She had already noticed how expensive the car was and how well-dressed the middle-aged man was. The man pulled out an envelope. There's a card in here. Its password is 123,456, and there's a sum of 100 million in here. This is a thank you gift from my boss, the man explained. What? How much did you say is inside? Olivia's eyes looked like they were about to fall out of her sockets. 100 million, the man replied patiently. Zach was just as shocked to hear this. He hadn't expected his nephew to contribute to the family even through his death. I can't believe we're getting 100 million for this. How could this be? Why not? Nick is our family, he sacrificed his life to save another boy's life. This is a big deal, you know? Olivia was worried that her husband would reject the money, so she practically snatched the envelope from the man. Thank you. Please help us to thank your boss. If you face any issues in the future, you can contact this number. We'll always be around to help. The man handed Olivia a name card, and she took it immediately. Are you sure that you can help with anything at all? Of course. I'll make sure to save this number, then. Olivia was on cloud 9. Drive safe. After the man left, Olivia let out a booming laugh as she threw her arms around her husband. We're rich, darling. We're rich. We have 100 million. Meanwhile, the young girl sitting on the couch stared at them with sorrow. What did you guys do to my brother? Why did that man give you so much money? It's none of your business. Stop asking questions, Olivia snapped. She then pulled her husband to a corner. We'll be the only ones who know about this, you hear me? We can't let that young brat find out about it. Otherwise, she's going to ask for a share of the money when she grows up, Olivia hissed. Zach took a glance at the girl who was sitting in a corner. Even though he was her biological uncle, he felt as if he had been totally blinded by the wealth that had just befallen him. He was afraid that the girl would want to snatch his money away as well. Okay, he promised his wife. We're really rich this time. We'll never finish all this money. At that thought, Olivia turned to look at her daughter and her skinny, frail niece. You'll live with us from now on. You need to be a good girl, do you understand? She spat at the skinnier child. I want my brother. The girl started crying. Your brother's sick. You won't get to see him anymore, the other young girl told the skinnier one. My brother's not gone. He's coming back, the skinny girl cried. When Olivia first took the two children in, she had considered how she didn't have a son of her own. That thought made her feel more reluctant to care for the two kids that came from her husband's sister's family. It seems like the heavens are taking away my problems now.
Thank you for listening. If you have enjoyed this story, please like and share so others can see it too. Also hit the subscription button and notification bell so you can be notified on our next release. Thank you for your support. God bless you.